welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker, and today I am presenting an interview with the co-creator of the Disney Lorcana trading card game, Steve Warner. This is a full circle moment for me. I've been pushing for this interview for a long time, and we've finally been able to make it happen. It's a long episode, so I want to get into it, but before we do, I want to temper a couple of expectations. For a start, no, I do not ask about a judge program. No, I do not ask about an online client. Not because I don't care about these things and don't want to know about them, but they have made it clear that they are not ready to answer questions on these subjects at this time. Furthermore, links down below, and I plugged this a few times during this chat with Steve, will be a link to The Forbidden Mountain, who did an interview with Steve Warner a couple of months ago. It's one of my favourite pieces of Lorcana content out there. And while there are a variety of questions, a lot of them are centred on game design. And I think will be interesting to people whose main concern is the mechanics of the game itself. Now, in this interview, I do ask a couple of questions about game design and mechanics, things that I hope will be interesting to the pro players. But I did attack this interview primarily from the perspective of a Disney fan. We talk a lot about Disney, the stories, the lore. So while I hope there's something in this interview that interests everyone, I feel like this interview might appeal more to Disney fans overall. That being said, I really enjoyed getting to have a chat with Steve. We're going to jump into it. A shout out to the channel sponsor, Cardmarket. If you're looking for Lorcana singles at competitive rates, then check out Cardmarket. But let's have a chat with Steve Warner. And as promised, I have finally trapped in the lair. I've lured him in. I put out a trail of Stitch cards, and he went along picking all of them up, and now he's in the lair. I've caught him in my web for an interview. We have the co-creator of Disney Lorcana, and the man who is yet to beat me on stream in a game of Lorcana, Steve Warner. You had to know I was going to mention that at some point, Steve, right?
Yeah. Ooh, look, another Stitch. Ooh,
look, Stitch Rockstar. Oh, look, a Surfer Stitch. That's how we got him in here, and we are going to take advantage of the time. I've got so many questions, but Steve, first off, I have to say, thank you for following my trail of Stitches and joining me in the lair. It's such an honour to have you here. I want to take advantage of the time that I have available with you. I know you're a super busy man. I also know that there aren't hundreds and hundreds of long interviews out there with you, Steve. I've seen tons of content where you were at events and people maybe get you for 5-10 minutes, and I've seen some of the stuff that you've done, with the Forbidden Mountain a short while ago, which I'm going to plug here specifically because I thought that was a fantastic interview, and that really dived a lot into the game design aspect of Lorcana specifically, and I think it was a fantastic interview. It is going to be linked down below, and I bring it up because there are questions that I would have asked you if they hadn't already, and I imagine the answers to those ones haven't changed. Some might have, so I'm going to try and avoid asking you things you might have been asked in the past. There may be a couple of things that I bring up that you've answered previously, but by and large I want to try and attack this from different directions and ask things that you may not have answered on camera before. So that's the plan. Go check out the Forbidden Mountains interview with Steve for a host of topics to do with Disney Lorcana and game design. And we're going to talk about game design, but I also want to talk about the story. I want to talk about Lorcana as a whole. I want to tackle all sorts of subjects with you, Steve. What got you into game design in the first place? I've heard you talk a little bit about what got you into Lorcana specifically, but I'm not sure I've heard you answer that question of what is it that allured you to game design in the first place? Can you tell us a bit about that?
I have played games for most of my life. I grew up playing games. I remember camping trips where my mom taught me how to shuffle a deck of cards, and we'd play various card games. And then that just progressed to more intricate games and miniature games and card games. And so it's always been a thing in my life. And my first job was actually at an arcade. And I went from an arcade to a game store, and then was working at Wizards of the Coast retail stores. And then I ended up at corporate office working on games. And then I was a freelancer working on games. So it's always been a dream come true, really, ever since I was young.
And then were you a big Disney fan when you were young as well?
Yes, yeah. I watched a ton of Disney movies. I've mentioned before, I used to watch Little Mermaid. Almost, it was either every day or every other day. When I was very, very young, I used to watch Lady and the Tramp, and this might come up again later, because it was like the only laser disc that they had where I was at most of the time, and so that's what I would watch because that was the movie, and it was always fun to watch those. They were always such great stories.
That's great to hear. 'Cause I relate to that a lot, really, because I've said this on my channel before that I grew up with a single mum, so we didn't have the most, but what I did have in an abundance was Disney videotapes, and most of those would come from. We have a thing in the UK called a car boot sale, or maybe in America, I suppose it'd be like a yard sale, where you would just people would lay out tables and try and get rid of some of their old things, a variety, and that's how I ended up accumulating a lot of my Disney videotapes. And Basil the Great Mouse Detective was one that's similar to you, you and Little Mermaid was pretty much on every other day. One of my favourites and kind of shaped my childhood as a whole. But yeah, love to know that you were into games from a young age and Disney, and now you find yourself as the co-creator of Disney Lorcana. Again, I know you've told the story about how that came to be with you and Ryan, and there's a great story about a lot of hypotheticals from your manager. I'm not going to repeat that story. Go back to the Forbidden Mountains video and watch it because it's a great story. So, and I don't want to tackle too much old ground, but you find yourself now. We're a year and a half into Disney Lorcana, and what a year and a half it's been. And I'm super keen to pick at you and ask you a bunch of questions and just get your thoughts about a bunch of things to do with the game. So we're going to start off with, I already mentioned, I'm going to try and not lean too much into game design. There will be some elements of it, but I'm also interested in the IP, the story. I am a super passionate and competitive player. I was into Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! As a kid, but for me, the IP has always mattered, right? Like, I know plenty of players who don't care as much about the IP, they just love card games, so they'll try or play anything. Whereas for me, the IP has always mattered. Like, I have to be invested in what it is before I'm even probably going to give the gameplay a try. That's just for me personally. So the fact that Disney Lorcana is a really good game to play is obviously the cherry on top. But I was interested just from the initial art. I remember I actually discovered Disney Lorcana quite late compared to other people. I discovered it before the game came out, but maybe a month before release, and I know that there was a year plus of teasing before that where there were content creators who were making content without even knowing the rules of the game, and they'd seen 6 cards. So I consider myself kind of lucky that I discovered it a bit closer to release, because I didn't have as long to wait between discovery, falling in love with the concept, and then actually getting my hands on it. But yeah, the Disney coat of paint meant a lot to me, and it was a big reason why I got into it. And I think you could have designed a card game with Disney characters that were just all storyborn, all just lifted from their stories and just traditional versions and traditional stories, and it still would have done well. But the fact that you have created an entire narrative to support why these Disney characters are where they are, and they're not even the Disney characters, they are glimmers of Disney characters, and we've got a whole universe. We've got locations like the Great Illuminary, the Inklands, Arcasia's Island, Arcasia as a character, all this unique lore, which to me is absolutely fascinating. So the question I've got for you is, at which point in the development of making Lorcana did all of this original lore start actually influencing the design of the game? What can you tell me about those influences? Which ones maybe helped with game design? And which ones were maybe a little trickier to incorporate into the game itself?
Well, that one's an interesting one. So lore has always been part of the sort of strings, the heartbeat of the game. You mentioned, yeah, we could do storyborn characters, but then we sort of will run out eventually, and we wanted something that we could have forever, right? We don't want just 5 years, we want 30 years. And the story had to go along with that. And we had a lot of discussions with our narrative lead at the time of what we were thinking about for games. I was at this time it was primarily myself and Shane Hartley, who is our creative director, and we knew the ideas of what we wanted for some of the game, or some of the guardrails that we were creating for the game, that we thought met the audience really well. And if you can imagine it, think of three lines, right? And one's design, one's creative, the artwork, and one's narrative. And those lines kind of have to move at the same pace. And sometimes you'll have one jump ahead because they need to kind of clear the path for the others, and then the other ones move ahead to clear the paths for the first ones. And so it's that constant growth from all three of those lines that really lead you to the end product.
Wow, so it does influence it like at a very base level, because from the outside look of a layman, I would have said, okay, you look at something like Floodborn, which is obviously very important to the lore of the story overall. The mixed magical inks creating the Floodborn glimmers when they come into contact with them, but that's also a very core part of the game design. Can you talk specifically about Floodborn and like maybe at what point in the process that was solidified? Was that from day one, like we are going to have a way of, I don't want to say evolve our characters because then we're leaning into other TCGs, but you've said in the past, you know, every card game takes inspirations from everything that's out there in the world, right? And it tries to make it its own. So can you tell us about that?
I can talk a little bit about it. We knew that we wanted something to do with the floodwater.
Yeah.
Right. The flood ink. And we had various stories, and we were discussing various things, and we knew that we wanted sort of a shift mechanic that would do things, but we also wanted to make sure that when a player drew that card, if they didn't have the right card in play already, that they could do things with it. And so we went through some variations of testing, but the primary thing was that you could do something when you had the card and when you didn't have the card in play. And so it was, the flooding played a pretty integral role in what that mechanic was going to do.
And I think it's a fan favourite part of not only the design, but the lore. Like, it's a fascinating idea, and again, allows us to see all these wonderful what ifs about these Disney characters. I was working for Ravensburger the past weekend at the Lilo and Stitch event in London, which I'm sure you're jealous of. I imagine you would have loved to have been there. It was a lot. I know you're a big fan of Stitch. It was a lot of fun, and I was running demos for people, and like I found where if you'd have like a group around the table and I was sort of pitching it and trying to get them to come and learn and play the game, what got the most response was bringing up the Disney what if. And that's kind of how I was explaining Floodborn, as like, take a character like Stitch and you've got an Illuminaire, a spark of creativity, and says, what if Stitch was a rock star in his own concert and we had a big card of Rockstar Stitch, and so they could see it in front of them. And then what if Stitch was a pirate, and then we had the pirate one. So that's one of my favourite parts of Disney Lorcana, and I think as well, like, it's something that people that have never heard of it can spark that interest immediately, because that was enough for some people to go, okay, tell me a little bit more. You've got my interest. So absolutely a huge fan of the Floodborn concept. But we'll stick on the story, stick on the theme of the story. The first arc being the first 4 sets, which culminated in Ursula acquiring the Hexworld crown. I love how this was teased right from the get-go. You look at the chapter 1 cards, like Mickey Mouse Detective. That was already such a cool standout card, but he's got the seaweed, and there's a few other cards in the set that really like laid these seeds right from the beginning. And yeah, it culminated with the Illumineers Quest and Deep Trouble, and very soon will be the release of Reign of Jafar, where we're getting a very similar product in Palace Heist, with the main difference here being that we need to steal the crown back from Jafar, and that's gonna have an effect on the gameplay. At which point in the development of Lorcana did you know that the Illumineers Quest should be a thing? Why was it an important thing for Lorcana to have? And what can you tell us about the evolution of that game concerning its game design?
So it was very early on that we wanted to do some sort of uh, cap to the story. We wanted the players to feel like they were part of the story and that that final battle was very important to that story. Um, and we spent a fair bit of time working out some of the details. I worked with the development team that I had in coming up with ideas, and we kind of pitched around some other things. We were talking very closely with narrative to make sure that we knew where the story was going to lead us and what we needed to know. And we tried out a couple versions that didn't work so well, and so we adjusted things a bit and tried it again, and we liked where that was, and so then it was just a matter of fine tuning everything. And we got to a place that we liked. One of the biggest aspects of it that we knew that we wanted was we wanted it to be co-op. We wanted players to be able to sit down together and play together against the big bad, so that it wasn't more of a challenge against each other, but we could sit down and have a lot of fun together and hopefully both win at the same time. And so that was one of the competing elements that was one of the more challenging aspects of just getting right. The balance level of how fast does Ursula move and how close does she get to victory before the players can stop her. Creating the different battlegrounds so that you have the different abilities from those. All was a lot of fun, and we had a blast. I still remember we were coming up with flavor text on some of the cards, and we got to the hey that's in the Ursula deck, and I just made the quip of like, he doesn't know why he's there, neither does Ursula, and everyone loved it. So that's how that one got the flavor text that it did, and you'll notice that he's also not entangled, so he's just randomly there.
It's just there.
So it was, yeah.
We wouldn't expect anything less from Hey, but that I do think that is my favourite flavour text, and this is coming from someone that I really like. I normally like the really deep, dark passages from villains, but that one for Hey is absolutely perfect, and I love that game so much. Deep Trouble there, like everything you say is really nice way to tie a ribbon around like not only the first four sets from a story standpoint, which was obviously, you know, Ursula entangling all the other glimmers, as was teased on cards like the mini diver, where she finds the you can see her underwater and she finds the cauldron, and that's obviously leading to her getting entangled. And there's the Anna and the Hans, and I love how it set the scene for this. So it's really nice to tie a ribbon around that 4-part story, and then allows for, we went into Shimmering Skies and starts off with a big party, of course, to celebrate the victory, but oh no, wouldn't you believe it, there are pieces of the Illuminary falling from the sky. What do we do about this? And then leads us across the Azurite Sea. So like, again, as someone that is so invested in the narrative, I think it was perfect, and it allows for all these different ways to play Lorcana. Like, one-on-one Lorcana is grand. Like, I would happily, if that was all that was available, I'd still be very happy. But multiplayer is a lot of fun. And yeah, the Illumineers Quest, I think, is such an important, like, thing for Lorcana to have. As you say, it's the only way of doing, okay, we are just a team against the game itself. Like in single player or multiplayer, there's always got to be a loser. So this is a great way to learn with your family, sitting around the table.
Oh, there's no losers in the game. There's only the winner.
Fair. But nonetheless, this is a wonderful tool for which to teach people the game, I think, and to challenge yourself. And like you say, the different difficulties. So, you know, if you really want that biggest challenge, then you can have it. And yeah, Palace Heist is coming out very soon. There's already some review videos and stuff around. You may notice I do have one in the background, which I've not made any content about it yet, but I am demoing it at UK Games Expo, and I'm so excited to do so, and hopefully really bring it to life for people. So yeah, just a big tick concerning Illumineers Quest there.
With the Palace Heist, I think one of the nice things about that one is we were able to start kind of doing some new things to it. So people that play with this one will actually have a different feel from
Yeah,
the original Ursula's Deep Trouble. Um, and so I think that it'll be a fun experience to kind of continue on the Illumineers Quest storylines and have some new cool things to try out.
I agree, and I like that. Again, it's very similar to Deep Trouble, but it's got a slight adaptation. It is developed slightly to match the story, the theme of the game, and I, for one, am hopeful that this continues. Whether it's the same thing every year and it's just a different villain, but with a slight alteration, maybe we get something completely brand new. I know you're not going to be able to talk too much about the future, but I just want to say I'm excited for more different ways to play Lorcana, and I'm sure the Lorcana community feel exactly the same way. I want to move on a little bit. I want to reference a question I've heard you and Ryan, shout out to Ryan, who I'm very excited to hopefully meet one day. But a question I've heard you both asked multiple times, which was, what was like the moment that you really felt? I mean, I'm sure from the very beginning you had to know that this game had potential and you knew where you would like it to be, but you could never tell. But I've heard you ask, what was the moment you were like, okay, wow, like we've really caught lightning in a bottle here. And you've mentioned Gen Con as being one of those really big moments. I wasn't there, but I've heard so many people tell the stories. I've seen the footage. It does sound like an amazing moment. Have there been any other moments since then that really stand out as just a reassurance of, yeah, we still going, we still rolling?
Well, certainly the challenges
Yeah.
were a huge aspect of that. Just the number of people that wanted to join us in those events was wonderful to see. A little terrifying at times because it's just you never really know what's going to happen. Every set is I get very anxious, as people around me know, because it's just like this. We got this really cool thing for you. I hope you like it, and then we have to wait for an answer. And yeah, so the challenges were really big. Every event that we've been at, the conventions, just seeing the crowd and having people come up to us, it all kind of reinforces that feeling that yeah, there's something here. It's going to be around for a long time. It's great. So
That's
pretty much
awesome.
all those things.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And again, I just want to say as well, like, I appreciate, I had the pleasure to meet you for the first time in Lille, and we'll come back to that. I'll talk about that at the end, but then also the European Championships. And I've seen you walking the floor, talking to people. And again, I know that you're generally a bit of a shy person, like, especially if you don't know someone particular well and you have some, like, there's some anxiousness there. But I've seen you take the time to go around and meet anyone that wants to meet you, sitting down doing photo signatures, and let's be honest, you don't have to do that. You might feel like you have to from a moral perspective, but you don't have to. There's artists, you've got a huge dev team, but I super respect and appreciate the time that you spend to do that. You clearly feel like it's important to have that face-to-face with the community.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I love getting the opportunity to do that. I'm always a little surprised that somebody wants my signature, but if it makes them happy, I'm more than happy to provide it. And you're right. I am not a very outgoing person the way that like Ryan's great at talking and laughing and everything. I'm usually more reserved, but when you get me talking about games, I can talk about games.
Yeah. And I imagine that makes for quite a nice dynamic between you and Ryan anyway when you're discussing these sort of things. So that's interesting. But yeah, off the back of that question, I asked, what are the sort of aha moments, we've got something here. You've got, obviously, a very close relationship with Disney. Now, Ravensburger have had that for a long time with the puzzles, famous. The puzzles are famous, should I say. Villainous is obviously a very successful board game. I've got a few copies of that behind me. So that relationship has been there a while, and you build up this trust with a company like Disney. That being said, Disney, like, there are lots of companies that get Disney licenses to do certain things, whether it's t-shirts, posters, toys, sticker books, all sorts of things. Disney are a business. I imagine they don't expect every single venture is going to be a huge blow up. But what do you think was the moment where Disney themselves looked at Lorcana? And again, this is with the prerequisite of I'm sure they had every belief in Lorcana from the get-go, because you've built up that trust, and I'm sure a lot went into pitching it and getting it approved. So they must have believed in you from the get-go. But do you think there was a moment where Disney saw the game and was like, wow, this is doing well?
Yeah, that one's a tough one, because I can't really speak to what Disney knows and what they think, but they've always been great collaborators, and they've always worked really closely with us in making sure that everything is as good as it can be. So it's been really great working with them, as having them collaborate with us on the game.
That's awesome. And every person I've met from Disney, from events, has always been super lovely, really supportive, and really wanted to know more about the game as well. Especially at the European Championships, there were some people from Disney that came to check it out, and they were talking to people and super infused to be there, which was really reassuring to see. So I'm really glad that you've got such a good relationship with them, and that's only going to continue to grow over time. So that leads us into another question that I want to ask you, coming back to the card game itself. We have some of the most beautiful art in any card game ever, and I will argue this point in the face to any card game fan that you want to till the end of time. I think we are second to none. I know that's a big statement to make. There's some beautiful art out there from some great artists and amazing games, but Lorcana is just different. It just hits different. And then you look at our Enchanteds, the promos, and then we're getting two new incredible looking rarities, the epics and the iconics, coming to Lorcana, which again, another example of you guys responding to feedback from the community. We want more collectible, shiny, pretty things to put in our deck, and you have provided. And it seems to be there's an assortment of characters, songs, something for everyone when it comes to the Enchanteds. I'd like to ask you what sort of process and decision making goes into choosing which of these characters, songs, or just Lorcana cards in general are going to get this Enchanted treatment.
There's a fair bit of communication between different teams, knowing what's going to be important to the story, knowing what we might just have really great art of, knowing what characters are going to resonate the best. These are all discussions that we have with a bunch of teams, and so it's a lot of work between a lot of different people, and then we kind of come out with a list that we think will work. We go over it a few more times to make sure that we feel confident in it, and that's how the list gets made.
Yeah, I mean, I've always I see comments sometimes throughout Lorcana's lifespan, and it's not a lot, but sometimes it'll be like, this isn't a top tier, S tier meta card. Why have you given this an Enchanted? And my response to that, and again, I'd love to get your thoughts off the back of this, but my response to that has been, not only does every Enchanted, it doesn't have to be the top tier competitive cards, because to someone that is a card that they are going to want to put in their deck regardless of how good it is, because it is a character or a song that they are that's sentimental to them. Maybe they want to build a Madrigal deck and they want to run that Enchanted set championship. Mirabelle, even if it isn't S tier competitive, to someone that's going to give them excuse to have this pretty shiny thing in their deck, and it's about trying to make it so that there's something for everybody. Is that accurate as well as you can say?
Yeah, and to even clarify a little bit further, it's not always just for the players. Disney Lorcana offers collectors a lot of opportunity as well. And so there are cards that we choose that we know they're not going to be super powerful. They're not going to be meta chase cards, as you mentioned. But they are going to make someone really happy. Yes. And so we have a whole diverse group of people that we want to make happy.
I'm so glad to hear that, because they really should be something for everybody. So that's really great to hear. Off the back of that, we have some wonderful IPs in the game. We've got Goofy Movie confirmed to be coming in set 9 with Fabled. We've had things teased. We know we're getting Black Cauldron. We don't know when exactly, but I have my predictions that there might be a whisper in the well about that, but that's purely speculation. But we know it's coming. We know we're getting Pocahontas, and we know we've got Pixar coming to the game. So much to play with, such a toolkit. But I have to ask just a little bit about what goes into the choices for these IPs. So for a start, clearly someone at Ravensburger, and you mentioned it earlier, if you look at the last couple of sets, someone is a fan of Lady and the Tramp, and there is someone else at Ravensburger who very famously is a big fan of Sword in the Stone. There's a few interviews where Ryan has said this himself and admitted he might have used his power a little bit to make sure that was in the game, which, hey, more power to him as far as I'm concerned. Like, if you can't use your power a little bit, what's the point being the creator of a Lorcana game? So more power to him. But we are also now recently seeing some Lady and the Tramp cards that are seemingly some of the strongest things in the game since the Merlin Madam Mim package. So who's the Lady and the Tramp fan, Steve? Tell me.
Well, I have a soft spot for Lady and the Tramp. I have to. I grew up with it when I was really young. So yeah. And yeah, Ryan loves his line about Sword in the Stone. I don't know how much he actually swayed the decisions versus just manifested them. I don't know.
He likes to say it was him, but it was there all along. For what it's worth, I would too. If I was a game dev, I'd be like, right, we got to make a Ratigan that everyone's going to play. So I don't blame him at all. Love that. And that leads me to the question that is probably going to be most to do with general game design for the game. And I know you've answered this one before. I've heard you speak to this before. But I think it's important to bring up again a little bit later on. So does every Lorcana card need to be S-tier competitive? Oh my goodness, we are going to see this and there's going to be a deck for everything in official play. Do they all need to be those S-tier cards, and why? No.
I mean, clearly not. There's no way that we would be able to do that even if we wanted to. Either between the synergy that they have with another card not being present if that card's not there, the constant struggle of having to increase the power level would be probably not good for any game, let alone our game. So, no, not every card needs to be S tier. Not every card needs to be absolutely amazing. But every card should serve a purpose. And this is one of the things that I've tried to bring into game dev every time, is that there should be a reason that you want to run this card. Either, the theme of it, you've got the brooms, by itself isn't a great card. But with all of the other brooms and with Mickey the Sorcerer, you get a lot of things that can help it, and it provides a reason for it. There can be a character that even just has very similar stats, and one could go into one deck because it's a villain. One could go into a different deck because it's a hero. And those could have vastly different implications. So every card should have a reason and a purpose for existing.
I agree. And I think there are a couple of examples that you can immediately draw, because, for an example, we have coming in Reign of Jafar a Vanellope von Schweetz, who is a 2-cost inkable ruby card, 3/1 evasive. This is Pegasus, and some people met from we have a Pegasus, which is basically the same thing, but they're not basically the same thing for three reasons really. One of them being rotation, but we'll get to that next. But even if there was no rotation, they have two distinct differences. One, the characterizations super matter, and especially Racer, for an example, which I feel has just got quite a lot of tools to support it. So that straight away is relevant. I do believe Pegasus is an ally, if my memory serves me correctly. In which case, again, that's going to be relevant for. We have a couple of cards that are relevant to allies, and then we're getting a couple more in Reign of Jafar. There's a Jasmine, there's an Aladdin that we've already got. So all of these things are super relevant, and just again the core name, right? Because if there's a Floodborn Pegasus, then no, they're not the same because they don't share that name. So I get what you're saying about, like, hey, you might see something which is the same stats in the same color, but if it has a different name or a different tag or a different anything, you never know when it's going to be relevant. Maybe it's got support and now we can get it back with the Dragon Gem item card from a while back. So I think these small differences make like a world of difference when it comes to game design. And that's going to lead me straight into my next question, which is another one which has kind of been covered, but specifically by Ryan. But again, it's still very recent news. And I don't see any harm in bringing it up again since I've got you here. So rotation has been confirmed for Disney Lorcana. We've talked about Ryan's talked about the benefits of rotation. I've always also been very outspoken in my support for it. I think it brings a lot of benefits to a TCG, but we've got you here. So let me ask you directly, why is rotation right for Disney Lorcana?
So rotation provides a number of smaller benefits, I think, but it creates one major benefit that I really love for Lorcana, and that is that it makes it so much easier to approach the game for players that are just coming in. Mm-hmm. So when you first get into the game, you're not looking at 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road, or 10 years down the road, needing some of those cards that existed back then. You are focused on what is current, what is the fun things that you can play in the current rotation. And then if you want to, you can go join Infinity and you can go collect those cards that you want to build that Infinity deck for and play in that. So rotation specifically lets us bring in the new players, have a great place for them to play that's constantly changing and evolving, and bringing in new decks and adjusting the formats. And then if they want to continue on to include Infinity or just go straight to Infinity, that is totally an option for them as well.
Love that. And when you're, and again, I don't expect you to be able to be too specific here, but I'll ask and you'll answer what you can, I'm sure. When you're making these decisions about what is going to be reprinted and what is going to stay in rotation, what sort of things are you taking into account when those decisions are being made?
Sort of leads back to the earlier question about S-tier cards. Everything has to have sort of a reason on why it's around. And so we want to see what the environment's going to be. How can we make sure that things are going to change and that there's going to be different decks and different innovations that can be done? What do we have planned for the future? Because we definitely think about future sets as well. Where are we going with the narrative? Where are we going with the art? Are there new properties? There's a ton of things that go into which cards are we going to reprint.
So obviously we know a couple of the reprints that have been revealed, like Stitch Rockstar and Tinkerbell, and we've been told that we'll find out more leading up to reveal season 4 Fabled, which I certainly look forward to. But what I'd like to ask is, when that time comes, and we see the full reprint list from sets 1 to 4, if a card is not reprinted then, does that mean it's game over for that card and it's never going to be seen again in constructed format? Or is it possible that maybe you want us to have some time away? We want some time apart? Maybe it'll be good for both of us, honey? Or just a matter of it coming back when it's more relevant and healthy for whatever the current pool is? Can you confirm if they're ever off the table completely?
They're not off the table completely. There will be times, I'm sure, where a card stays out for a little while and then we bring it back because it's relevant to the narrative, it's relevant to the themes, it's important for decks that we want to have exist in this rotation. So it's never off the table. The one thing that we won't do is I won't reprint an Enchanted card. I'll reprint the original version, but I don't want to have an Enchanted card come back. So
Okay.
We'll never be doing that.
Okay, so essentially Maui Hero Tool Enchanted will only ever be available from the first chapter is basically what you would say there.
Which card?
The Maui Hero Tool, the Enchanted from first chapter.
Oh.
That will only ever that enchanted version of it will only ever be from the first chapter, but who knows about the original art? Maybe it gets reprinted, maybe it doesn't.
Exactly.
That moves us into, we're about halfway through. Thank you again for being here, Steve. I'm super grateful for your time. And this is a question that I'm very keen to ask you, and it's kind of half game design but half colour and theming. So I love cards that work particularly well with other specifically named characters and play into the lore. There's some examples like Maui's Fishhook, which Maui can use for free. There's a lady that gets extra lore if there's a tramp in play. All of these sort of cards that want a specific character that's relevant to their lore and story. I love that. Like, I love including that theming and that story into actual game design. But I feel like the majority of the cards that we've got that would fill this sort of theme that I'm bringing up, they are very specific interactions and never end up feeling all that playable in the competitive metagame. And I'm going to give you a couple of specific examples here. So there's a card of one of the Lost Boys called Slightly, who is a 4/3 with evasive. And you can play him for 1 less ink if you control a Peter Pan. Love that. But we never got a 2-cost Peter Pan to fully take advantage of that on curve. And the other example I'm going to give you before I ask you to kind of speak to this is set 1, all right? We get this Moana, okay, who banishes a T-car on play. Now, banish effects are very powerful in Lorcana, but this one being so specific to T-Car meant that this Moana was only ever going to see play if T-Car saw enough play. And I know I'm not the only one who spent a long time thinking, one day we're going to get a really busted T-Car that everyone's going to be playing, and this Moana is going to be at you, like, she's going to be like, you laughed at me back then, and now you come crawling back because you need me. And there's a Scar that gets rid of a Mufasa, which is maybe a little more relevant because there's a couple of playable Mufasas. And when I say playable, I'm talking about, like, every card is playable. I want to make that clear. But from a top-tier competitive DLC standpoint, we never saw a T-Car C play at all. So is this a conscious decision that some of these more fun theming interactions should be more on the fun side? Or is there more to this? Did something get switched around? Was there originally a really busted T-Car that you were like, no, even with Moana, she's too good, put her back? I'd love to hear whatever you can tell me about this theming, this topic I brought up.
So this is a multi-part aspect. So when you have something like Moana or Scar that reference certain characters on the opposing side of the field, if we made those particular cards so powerful that every deck is running them, I think that we've probably made a mistake. We would just see them too much, and if you had the answer, then they do nothing, and if you don't have the answer, then they just run away with the game, right? That would be what would cause that level of power to be present. And we don't think that would be good for the game. Have the answer or lose to it is never a fun aspect of a game. So we're very cautious when we do those sorts of things, and they're usually very thematic for the character. Obviously, we know what happens with Scar, and we know what happens with Moana, and so those sorts of things are fun thematic moments that the players can look at and go, oh, I see. And in some cases, they're also built for more limited formats, such as Pack Rush or Draft. I actually did have a Scar take out Mufasa because I got the Scar and my opponent got Chapter 1 packs, and he got the common Mufasa.
Okay.
And so that was a big surprise for him. And I even waited for him to play Mufasa because I thought he might have it. So there's these moments, especially in different formats, that can come up, and so I think that that's important to kind of keep in mind with some of this. The other aspect of it is you mentioned slightly in Peter Pan. Uh, in some of those cases, it could be that we've created this ability and it's kind of a fun ability, but we want to be very cautious with it because if you could do it on curve, if let's say for example, slightly was one less cost, and it would normally take him down to a two cost to play. Even with a three cost Peter Pan, then you're playing two slightlys on the following turn, and it suddenly it creates a sort of did you have it or did you not, and that's what determines the game, and not like let's play and I'll react to you and you react to me and we'll see what happens. It's just do you have it or not, and that's not a fun gameplay for a lot of players because it's just not interactive. So we're very cautious with those sorts of things.
Yeah, that's reasonable, and like I think of something as well like Tragic Hero Beast, which was a shift 3, and I do thank the dev team that we never got a 1-cost 2/2 beast. Don't mind we got Morph, but like again, that you had to be playing Emerald Steel to allow for that turn 3 shift into a beast at the very least. Whereas if there was just a Steel 1 or even a 2-cost beast, then just because this character can shift on 3 doesn't mean it always should. Doesn't mean that's always best for the game, I imagine.
Well, and the value of shifting isn't always to be on curve. Same thing with slightly. It's not always to be on curve. It's to get that bonus and maybe be able to do something else on the turn or whatever else. So there are different values to it.
Yeah.
But yes, a turn 3 tragic hero might be a little challenging to deal with.
For any steel deck, because like not even limited to Emerald Steel. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and I do like what you say about keeping the, like you mentioned, the Scar and Mufasa moment. Like if that was happening every day, like if there were decks that were running these Mufasas that were super powerful, so everyone was running the Scars, and it was an everyday thing, it would be less special, I suppose, as opposed to those moments in limited and stuff where, oh, I finally did it, guys! I finally banished the T-Car with Moana, or whatever it might be, and that allows for some unique moments, I'm sure, as well, is partly the hope.
Right, and also for when you go to an event, we wouldn't want people to only have the choice of like, do I run this deck or do I run that deck? These are my choices because I have to be able to do this.
Moving on to another aspect of Lorcana that I'm a big fan of. Illusions are a new keyword, new characterizations. Vanish is the keyword. Introduced in Arcasia's Island. This was very on theme, obviously, for our current story arc, with Jafar assembling the broken pieces of the crown and summoning illusions to help do his dirty work. And this is a really another nice inclusion of game design and theming meeting really nicely with the idea that Jafar's illusions, when he was first making them, they're not fully powered, so they can be banished by an action. That's enough to take them out. Whereas when you get to Palace Heist, they no longer have that vanish keyword because they have they have fully developed. Not so easy to get rid of them anymore. So I really appreciated that from a game point standpoint, where game design and theming could shake hands. But what I want to ask is, these illusions have been made clear to be being summoned by Jafar, and assumedly after the end of Reign of Jafar and Palace Heist, most Illumineers will probably take down Jafar. I'm trying to convince as many as possible to let him win, so I'll let you know, Steve, if we need to just drag out Reign of Jafar a few more sets. I'm good with it personally, but I imagine most people are going to take him down and blah blah blah. But my question is that the end of illusion characters as soon as Jafar's gone? Is this something that was like, okay, this is going to be part of these two sets, and it might have some relevance for a little while, but then it's just a gimmick for now, and their illusions are gone? Can you speak to that?
I think we'd have to insert some Bruno music, and it's one of those things we can't really talk about the future. Maybe they'll be around. Maybe we'll find other ways to use them. You never know.
You never know. And I suppose, again, there are other Disney characters that I suppose could summon illusions. Or maybe Jafar comes back. Who knows? But for what it's worth, I've really enjoyed the illusions in the game themically. And I'm super looking forward to testing them. That 5-cost Jafar who draws a card and discards if plays an illusion for free seems pretty fun. Am I going to have some fun with that, Steve?
I hope so.
In your interview with Forbidden Mountain, I heard you talking a lot about the considerations that go into game design. You mentioned it, twisting the knobs on card stats and the effects that just changing one thing, the rollover effect it has on the entire card pool. And that's a very fine line when it comes to costing a card. I heard you say that something at a 3 cost everyone thinks is too powerful, whereas at a 4 cost is suddenly basically unplayable from a metagame perspective, and it's super hard to find that line. But what I liked about what you said in that interview was that sometimes you can play it too safe as a game designer, and you do want cards in the pool that are going to be exciting and innovative. Similarly, Elaine Chase at Disney Lorcana made a similar comment and said, if every now and again we don't find ourselves having to ban a card or two, then perhaps game design is playing it a bit too safe. And she goes on to say that obviously it's something you hope you don't have to do regularly, but you will do it strategically where necessary to benefit the health of the game. And I really love that. I'm glad that the game designers are seemingly encouraged to push it a little bit, and even more so that you guys are willing to give the green light on some of these cards that you might think, oh, that's pretty good, but go on then, let them have some fun. Let's see where the cards lie. We had our first errata in Bucky, our first and only errata to date. We had our first bans in Flavisham and Fortisphere. Now, were these cards that from day one you looked at and you were like, we need to keep an eye on these in particular, this is something that could get carried away? And are there any cards that you can talk about that you thought might end up being a problem, but actually settled in a healthy place? And again, I know you won't be able to say too much on this, but any small window you can give us would be great.
Yeah, I'll take this a little bit of a different direction. So for the game designers, their job is to scare the developers in some ways.
Love that.
And what I mean by that is they should be coming up with really cool abilities, really exciting thematic things that cards can do, and make sure that they're fun and useful in the game, where the developer's job is not to just immediately cut those things down, but to go through and get them to work and maintain that excitement, but not just play it safe all the time. Because it would be easy, right? We could add 2 to the cost of every card, and suddenly everything's safe and everything's boring, and we would not have fun with that world. So that's not what we're going for. But we need those new exciting abilities for the sets. We need the really cool characters and really fun interactions. So we worked very hard at maintaining those from a development standpoint. Were there cards that scared me when they came out? Yes, of course. Like, I am always terrified because the players, you guys are going to have the cards for about an hour before you put in more time as a whole than what all of us can do here in game dev. And it's just because of the sheer number of players that we have. You guys, there's a lot of you guys, there's a lot of hours, and you guys can go through a lot of things. So the goal for us is to make sure that we keep things exciting, knowing that we're not going to catch everything. We hope, we try, we play a lot of things, but in the end of the day, we want things to be exciting, and so we can't be too safe.
No, that's great. And again, as far as I'm concerned, 7 sets deep, 1 errata and 2 bans doesn't seem bad going as far as I'm concerned. And I hope you feel the same and you're happy with how the game is laid out over the different formats. And I hope you're happy with where it's laid, where it lays is basically the point I'm making here.
Yeah. I joke about how we're always watching, and We are always watching. We're always trying to keep track of things, and I am actually pretty happy with where things are. I've seen a lot of new deck ideas and a lot of people coming up with new things, and a lot of people watching Reign of Jafar and looking for their next crazy deck that they want to build.
And I am certainly one of them. I have an illusion list ready. I just need the cards, and we are going to League. But that's awesome. I'm glad. I'm glad that you're mostly happy with the position that it's in. We're coming towards the end now, like sort of like less than the final third, but a few last things I want to ask you. A couple of fun Disney-based questions. You always get a little bit of Disney cheese if you come onto my channel, so I would give you no less. But before we get into that, there's an email that I want to share with you, Steve. I do a thing on my channel where I review all the set championship deck lists. I say to the community, in the past it was just, hey, if you want a promo, send me your list and we'll show them all off. This season I've just been showing winners just because the workload's been a bit too much, but I do plan to go back and I like to show as many lists as I can and give the opportunity for the community to show off what they brought to set championships, whether it's a meta deck or a fun deck, and I get a bit of absolutely everything, which is always great to see, and it's great to be able to highlight the community in this way. But I also make a point of asking, hey, if you've got a junior, if you've got a young Lorcana player, I don't care if they win, I don't care if they top 8, just send me the list. If they play, I would love to put a spotlight on them and encourage them to continue. So I've been sent a lot of junior deck lists, and it's always lovely to hear, not only their own success stories, but obviously you alluded to it earlier, you find it weird when people ask for your signature. So do I, still to this day. And I'll get messages saying like, oh, me and my son, or me and my daughter, me and my child, whatever, we watch everything you do, and like, it's always super, super humbling. So it's an honor to be in the position. And since I'm in the position, I feel like I would like to read a message to you that I received from a father of a son who competed in a set championship lately, just to, again, kind of reinforce to you the positive effect that Lorcana's having on the community. I know you told a story about being invited to someone's wedding, you and Ryan, that came up in the Forbidden Mountain interview. And again, go and watch that interview because they ask a lot of really interesting questions. And again, I've tried to not repeat them because those answers are already out there. But nonetheless, I'd like to read this email to you, Steve. So this is from Benjamin Davidson. Junior top 4 Lorcana set championships. My son and I are huge fans of your channel. He is 7 years old, first grade, and he learned to read this year, so we were able to start playing Lorcana. He got a gateway for his birthday in November. At the time, he was way behind the other kids in his class, and since starting to play Lorcana has come so far that his teacher has told us that he's now helping his classmates with their reading. And he goes on to say a number of things to do with the event and the deck that he ran, and went all the way to top 4 in a set championship. 7 years old, Steve. So again, a shout out to... And I've mentioned this story in content already, but just that part of the email there, to hear like that it's helping this young man not only be inspired to become a better reader, but then using that to help his classmates. Can I get a reaction to you from like how that is to feel, what that is like to hear at this point in Lorcana?
I mean, it's pretty amazing. There's multiple parts that catch me. I mean, father son getting to spend time together doing something that they both love is always a great story. Using this for something that kids can struggle with, it can be challenging to teach them to read. And for them to find something that drives them to do that, and to be part of the team that has created that is, I mean, as you've already said the word humbling. I mean, I don't know of any other words that really can describe it as well. So it's pretty amazing.
It's amazing what Lorcana is doing, and again, like you say, I've heard stories about this is what brought me and my son, or me and my daughter together, like, and allowed us to spend more time together. So all those sorts of stories always really are very heartfelt to me. Again, as someone that, you know, grew up watching Disney films with my mum, and I've always shared that connection of Disney with her, so it's very easy to relate to that sort of thing. So yeah, that was just a short story that I thought was important to share with you while I've got you here. And yeah, it's again, all,
I appreciate it.
all positives to do with Lorcana. All right, Steve. There's last couple of things I want to ask you. I've got like 4 questions, more on the fun side. So, this one's just a little bit of fun. Something I came up with while I've got you on the channel. And it's probably going to be a staple in the future for people that I have on. So, you are going to be trapped in a Lorcana location. It has to be a location that has been released in Lorcana. You are going to be trapped in that location for a week. You get to pick 1 Glimmer to come with you, and 1 Lorcana item, and you get a music box that has 1 Disney Lorcana song on it. Again, I'm not just talking all of Disney. It has to be a Lorcana location, a Lorcana Glimmer item, and a song that are all in the game. Whichever Glimmer you bring with you can do all the things you would expect that Glimmer to do, except help you escape the location. There's no getting out of that. You have to stay. You can't get someone to fly you away or something. So, where are you being trapped? Who's with you? What item are you bringing? And what song would you have to play to get you through it?
Well, let's see. I think for the location, I think I'd have to stay at Montanui, right? Like,
It's beautiful.
It's like a tropical paradise. I gotta stay there.
Okay.
And the item's easy. I think the item's the easiest one for me because I think I would need Beast Mirror because a week away from everything, I need to be able to tell and keep eyes on everything. Nothing better than Beast Mirror for that.
The game dev meeting, like, oh, Steve's appeared in the mirror. Quick. Love that.
He's watching us again.
Yeah.
Let's see. The song, I think How Far I'll Go is the one that I would choose there. I feel like I could listen to that song all the time, and it's got enough changes in tone that I wouldn't go too crazy. Not any more crazy than I'm already. So that's good. Here. For the glimmer that I spend the time with, I'm torn because obviously Hey is a great option, but I feel like I'd stress out wondering where he's walked off to all the time. So and same thing with Stitch. Like I think he'd be too into too much mischief, right? If I'm at Montanui, I'm gonna want to just sit back and relax.
A lot of water around as well. Like I know he can surf, but water's still a bit sus, right?
Well, at least then I know he's not gonna wander off too far.
True.
But I think honestly, Mushu would probably have to be the one.
Okay.
I love dragons, and you know I feel like I could have some good conversations with Mushu. So yeah, I think that's where I'd be at.
So
we've got Montanui.
Yeah, you and Mushu on Motunui Islands with your Beast Mirror so that you can check in on game dev. I assume also with your family as well. You've got to check in with them as well, and you're set. And that's all you need for a week getaway.
Yep, I think so.
I like it. Fantastic. This question I know you're going to be less keen on, but I am going to demand an answer. I'm not letting you out the lair. So you just got a phone call at Ravensburger. Steve, set 10, it's all been delayed. The printing is shut off. Like, it's meant to come out tomorrow, but we can't get it to the people. But if you sing one song on Disney Karaoke, it's all going to go right. It's all going to be fine. You can save Lorcana, Steve. What are you singing?
Nope, I would do way too much damage. Nope, sorry everyone.
It's cancelled.
Sorry.
Oh, fair enough. All right, I guess I'll have to do it for you, Steve. I'll have to take that one.
I'll tag you in.
You can tag me in. All right, I've got a few ideas what I'll sing. All right, next Disney-based question I want to ask you, but again, Lorcana-based. It's you and a friend are banished to a desert island, and you can only bring 2 Lorcana decks with you to play. What 2 decks are you playing to play with your Strandy? And
I mean, obviously, we're not trying to win a tournament here, so I think one deck would have to be 4 Sorcerer's Hats with all 1-of cards. So the rest of the deck would all be 1-ofs.
Okay.
Just because it would be completely random.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that. And I think the other deck, I feel like would need to be something similar. So there's, of course, see, I don't know if you guys have seen that card yet. There's definitely one.
I wondered if this was going to come up. I know sometimes you have this issue where it's like you're ahead of us, so you have to be careful.
Yeah, there's definitely a card in Reign of Jafar that I think I would build a deck around that would equally have some of that fun randomness to it, that you never know what's going to happen. So that way, no matter what, the decks would be different every time.
Yeah, so you're not going for, ultra consistent meta decks. You're valuing variety. You want the games to feel different every single time. Which, if that's what you're going for, then that sounds pretty good. Steve, I'm going to wind us down now. As a final question I want to ask you, and then kind of a self-indulgent bit, I imagine. This is going to be the self-indulgent part of the interview. You could argue it all was, because they're my questions, but I've tried to ask questions that I think different members of the community will find an interesting. But I want to take advantage of having you here to kind of speak to my experiences in Lorcana a bit. But to start that off, do you remember how we met? And I won't be offended if you say no, because I know that you meet a lot of people.
Well, I mean, you mentioned, and I do remember Lil was one of the first times that we actually got to interact with each other.
That was it. And specifically, so it was first DLC, my first casting gig ever. So like a lot of emotions, like they're all still there today, but like at the time for the first one, like a lot of like wide-eyed, just kind of being amazement at the position that I found myself in, grateful, excited, scared, like to be scared. But I remember we were, excuse me, it was the Friday, so before the main event had started, obviously on the Saturday and Sunday, and we were doing the rehearsal-based stuff, and all of the casters were in a meeting, because there was the French team and the English team, and we were having a meeting with, shout out to Mimi at Ravensburg, a wonderful person, and she was, like, telling us some of the things that we needed to know, and I spied you come in with Tim, shout out to Tim as well, another wonderful human being, and I spied you come in, and I caught you out the corner of my eye, but we were in the middle of a meeting where we were all being silent and Mimi was talking to us, so it wasn't the right time for me to be like, oh my god, hi! Like, I wanted to be a degree of professional while we were being told important information. So out the corner of my eye, I did a bit of a like, oh, that's Steve Warner. Oh, I hope he doesn't go too far. I hope I get a chance to say hello. And I turned back to the meeting, and then out of my peripheral vision, I see you walking down, just beelining straight towards me down this aisle. And Mimi's still talking, giving that information. But you came up to me and you were right here and you were clearly looking at me and like, I was like, well, I'm not going to ignore him. That seems bad as well. So I turned around and I just sort of like, hi. And you went, you're a villain, aren't you? And I remember how much that meant to me in that moment. Not only that you were familiar with who I was, and again, I would expect no less, purely because if anyone you're going to invite to come and cast an event, I imagine, you've all done your due diligence. But the fact that you knew that, but not only that, the fact that you made a point of coming to say hello to me meant a great deal to me. And it's a story I tell, so... And I don't think it's something I've told you in the times that we've met. So I wanted to bring that up and just say, like, what a significant moment that was for me, and to thank you for doing it. And it was great to get to have a game with you on stream. That was my first time having a game on stream. Again, it was a feature, but it was a feature as opposed to like being in the tournament. But that was so much fun to get to do with you. And then obviously at the European Championships, we did some pack rush. And I just want to say thank you so much for, like, again, from a personal standpoint, for always being so supportive and so lovely and always having the time to have a chat. With me, it's always meant a great deal. And not only that, after the European Championships, my mum got to come down and I got to spend a couple of days in Disneyland with her, which was incredibly, like, just so important. Like, going to Disneyland again was something my mum really wanted to do again while she can in her lifetime. And again, it's not an easy thing to do, but because of getting to go to Euros, that enabled me to do that for my mum and give her this incredible experience. And we really made the most of those 3 days, and I've got beautiful photos and videos, and it's something that I will like. There's a picture of my mum and Mickey Mouse that will be on display as long as I live. So again, just from a, like, even if you forget what it's meant for me as my career, just what it's done for me and my family, I just want to say thank you so much. And again, bring up of a way that Lorcana has benefited, not just for being a fun game, but for being something that helped create a really meaningful moment for me and my mum that may not have happened without that. But not only that, I know that you also spent some time with your family and friends in Disneyland, and we got to cross paths, and you were very kind to take a photo with her, and she was so pleased to get to meet some of you. So from a personal standpoint to you, I just want to say thank you so much, not only for giving us Lorcana, but for just being really a wonderful person, and just for always being so supportive and kind to me and to my mum.
Oh, I really appreciate it, and those are some really special stories. So I mean, I don't know what to say, really. I mean, it's what you do too is so great as well. And I'm thankful for all of our community. It was great that Organized Play and our events team was able to get us to those events, and that way we were able to spend some time together. So that was a lot of fun. I do need to beat you on stream one of these days,
yes,
so that I can prove that it's doable. But no, it's been really special for me too.
And that will be the last thing that I end us on. But yeah, again, it's been amazing, and from a career standpoint, like, what it's done for me has changed my life completely, like, in ways that I couldn't have possibly foreseen. And I gave a very emotional talk about this on my channel a few weeks after the World's announcement, and I kind of very much opened my heart and talked about some of my life experiences and why it's been so meaningful for me. But I just want to reiterate that and just say it gave me hope. It gave me, again, hope, and, like, what more could you ask from a Disney game for it to provide that? So I'm super, super grateful. But to end us off to the point that you just made a moment ago, yes, indeed, on stream, I am undefeated against Steve Warner. 1 game of Constructed, 2 games of Pack Rush. But I will say, we played a game off camera at Disneyland Paris. You were using your Enchanted Blurple deck, which was a thing of beauty. And I was on my Ruby Amethyst Constructed core deck. And you did beat me 2-1 in that best of 3. So as far as I'm concerned, Steve, we need a decider, is what I think we need. And I just want to put it out there. I've got the perfect place in mind for where we might be able to end this rivalry and really to put it in the history books. So Steve Warner, I challenge you to Disney Lorcana Best of 3 at the World Championship. Do you accept?
Of course I do.
Yes, you do, and I will destroy him, and I will rule all of Lorcana!
We'll see.
We'll see. Steve, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Can I convince you to do an evil laugh with me to see the people out? With me, together. Together!
I'll do a laugh. I'm not very good at the evil laugh.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, in 3, 2, 1...